All right, everyone, welcome into episode 117 here of Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. This post Super Bowl Monday in the United States. I'm joining live as always from Chattanooga, Tennessee. And joining me from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, is Gus Tomazeli repping Kansas City with the Royals, the not good Kansas City team, but still KC. And hey, at least they've won a World Series in the past decade.
And and a lot of people are joking that that's the only KC that loses to San Francisco because I guess the only San Francisco that can beat Kansas City is the Giants because the 49ers apparently cannot do it. Always nice to be with you, Nick, on our podcast. Definitely talk a lot about what happened in Las Vegas and Nevada because that was the event that did not stay in Vegas. It was definitely an event that was talked not only in the United States but throughout the world. In Brazil, again, was broadcast in public and cable channels. Of course, the ratings weren't like astronomical or like okay-ish because it's still like a growing sport. But it was definitely a game to be remembered, and we're definitely going to dissect a lot what happened at Allegiant
Yeah.
Stadium.
I mean, I think before we get into the game itself, they were showing watch parties from all over the globe. I think they showed Sao Paulo in an international stuff. They showed Germany. They showed, I believe it was Australia as well. I mean, the NFL, it's not soccer. It's clearly not soccer yet in terms of worldwide global appeal. Is there a chance it could get there, though?
I hate the comparison of World Cup final, Super Bowl ratings. First of all, World Cup is every 4 years, so there's a scarcity of you play only once every 4 years, so a lot of people gonna be tuning in. It involves countries, so of course a lot of people will be more engaged than people that are fan of the sport or fan of the team. So it's a very unfair comparison. You should compare to like the last week of EPL or the cricket match between teams. That would be more
Right.
fairly comparison in terms of ratings and interest of a league and a sport.
I think the closest thing in the world, honestly, to the Super Bowl on a country-by-country basis is the Australians rule football grand final. I mean, those people, they can get 100,000 people in the Melbourne cricket ground
Yeah, and and
for,
and the UEFA Champions League, I think, come close to also the Super Bowl. I mean,
yeah.
of course, it involves a whole continent, and of course, when there's like big brands like Liverpool, Manchester United, Milan, Real Madrid, Barcelona, of course, there'll be more people watching it. But nevertheless, I think that's the closest comparison. But in
Because
Sao
World Cup's more
Paulo,
like Olympics
yeah,
to an
oh
extent.
yeah,
But,
oh
to me, the World Cup is much more significant than the Olympics at this point. Now, granted, I know we have Olympics this year, but still, I'm much more excited for the World Cup in 2 years than I am the Summer Olympics this year.
no, yeah, for sure. Yeah. But it was the watch party was fun. It was called NFL in Braza. I think definitely they were trying to promote as much as they could the September 6th game between the Philadelphia Eagles and I don't know who is gonna play. Maybe be the Falcons. Hopefully, then News 12. I'm here. Hello, hello, Gustavo Tomazeli calling. But I think in terms of global expansion, definitely the Super Bowl, and also a lot of Taylor Swift fans probably were tuning in to see her, and maybe we're hoping to see her at the halftime show. I bet a lot of people were hoping that she would have come out, but I guess she didn't.
Now, well, I counted 21 times she showed up on screen last night
Whoa.
from the hour before the game started through the end of the game and post game when she was. I think I stopped count when she kissed Travis Kelce. So I think that was 21 times that she appeared on screen. Shout out Jason Warwick, our dear friend from Indiana. Shout out to you, sir. Um, and honestly, I was wondering if they would. I mean, I don't blame her for not. I mean, she was coming off 4 shows in Japan. I'm sure she just wants to take a break like the rest of us do, right, from our own jobs. And let's say, too, the cast of characters in her suite was wild, right? You got the Ice Spice up there. You had Blake Lively. Lana Del Rey was up there. You had Cece Sabathia. Cece Sabathia ran into Lana Del Rey, which is a sentence I didn't think you would ever say. Because, I mean, I know Taylor Swift has all the hype of, like, the top pop star. Lana Del Rey legit is, like, a top 5 singer right now in music. Like, she's made the past 5 years has been awesome.
I guess we can say that both of them peaked in the early 2010s, but I guess that's the only.
Lana Del Rey.
Yeah, I mean, she's a great artist. Don't get me wrong, but I think, yeah,
I'm going to disagree. I think she's peaking like now.
But nevertheless, it's so funny to see Cece Sabathia and Lana Del Rey in the same sentence. Who would have thought? But that's what the Super Bowl do. They bring all the most important people in a lot of feuds into one arena. And I mean, it's an event that costs $9,000 for a nosebleed seat. So of course, all the
my personal favorite celebrity was Gordon Ramsay.
Oh,
I'd love to cook with that man at one point.
I mean, he's definitely a big celebrity, especially in Vegas. He has a lot of restaurants and investment in the city, and so of course, him making an appearance to probably promote his restaurant definitely is important, especially in a big event like that. But
I mean, man, while we're on just the celebrities, let's go ahead and just talk about halftime, right? Like, while we're on, as you mentioned, Taylor Swift supposed to be in is she going to show up in halftime? But it was, the Chattanooga / Atlanta native Usher Raymond's halftime show, and of course, I did a story on it with family. With a relative of mine who got to teach him. I was very interested to see how the show would go. I've been actually starting to listen to more and more of Usher over the past couple of weeks, especially that 2004 album he had, Confessions. Just a phenomenal album from 20 years ago. And, man, that guy murdered that show last night. That was amazing.
Her duo with Alicia Keys was something like it gave me goosebumps because it brought me a lot of memories from that 2004 album Confessions, and especially a lot of 2005 memories when I was still in middle school, and I used to remember listening. And so I liked also the Turn Down for What.
Oh God, I jumped off my couch when that happened.
Yeah, I did too.
I was back in Neyland Stadium 2015. It's Third Down for What. Man, it was crazy, and of course it did. I first honestly kind of questioned the choice when they announced it a few months ago, but I totally see why Jay-Z picked Usher. It was fantastic. Honestly, I don't know where I'd rank it all time. Like, I don't know if I can't place it above. Prince is still, I think, the gold standard for me. I mean, you still have Michael Jackson up there at the tippy top, but I think he's arguably in that next tier right behind those two. Like with the Lady Gaga.
In a top 10, like in a between. I'll say like a between 7 and 5.
I think that's fair because for me, I'd have The Weeknd up there. I'd have Lady Gaga. I would have, So, I mean, honestly, there's not really much better.
Katy Perry has to be there too. He's definitely has to be there because. And shout out to my beautiful girlfriend Eleni Barbosa, watching 4-month anniversary celebrated. It was yesterday in Brazil, but still on the 12th. And she definitely was excited to see Usher. I mean, she was the kind of people that were like more interested about the concert, which is fair. I mean, a lot of people probably tune in on ESPN in Brazil just to see Usher, Alicia Keys, and that's what the Super Bowl brings. And a lot of people are interested not only to football.
Yeah, shout out to her as well, AGR, on the guitar as well. She did a great job. Reba, I think, had a very solid national anthem. Not the greatest national anthem, but she did her thing. Post Malone's America the Beautiful wasn't great. I don't know why they chose him to do America the Beautiful. I like Post Malone. I didn't like that choice for that song. Lift Every Voice and Sing was pretty good. Obviously, I know you didn't get to see the commercials in the Brazil. From the American TV standpoint, there's not many that stand out to me. I think the most memorable commercial was the Michelob Ultra commercial, the beer commercial, starring Lionel Messi and Jason Sudeikis as Ted Lasso, which was a soccer commercial, just because I really wasn't expecting a soccer commercial in the Super Bowl. But to see Messi, obviously, biggest superstar in the world, with Ted Lasso, that was pretty fun as a Ted Lasso fan. And also, some of the movie trailers, like Wicked, we're getting a Wicked movie. I saw that musical while I was in London. I love that musical. Be interested to see that in theaters, and also a Twister sequel called Twisted or Twisters or something like that with Matthew McConaughey. I'm a big weather nerd, so I'm going to have to go see that. There was an Arnold Schwarzenegger one with State Farm, which was okay. Otherwise, there's not a lot of other ones. There was one silly one with Kate McKinnon. Beyonce announced a new album via Verizon, which was interesting. Yeah, but those are some, I guess, of the top ones I can think about. Also, the commentary. Yeah, I know you didn't get. I don't know if you got. Did you have Nance and Romo as the commentators down there, or did you have different?
Unfortunately, we got the Brazilian Fernando Nagini and Paul Antunes, but on the English side of it, it wasn't CBS. It was an NFL Network commentator who I don't know who was. I couldn't tell because it wasn't somebody that I know. So even on the set in the SAP kind of translated, it wasn't CBS. It was NFL Network. So I guess it was like an international signal that was sent from the NFL networks from like international broadcasts like Brazil. But in terms of Brazilian broadcast, I'll say ESPN always do good. What's funny, I don't know if it happened in the American broadcast, but in the Brazilian broadcast, there were a lot of confusions in the last play of the game, in the overtime kind of Kansas City decision. The commentary, Paul Antunes, was saying that Andy Reid did a silly play because he thought if didn't got the play going, the clock went zero, the game would restart. But the referee commentator correct him multiple times. Say no, it wouldn't reset the game. The Kansas City is gonna restart the second OT from the point where they were, and he had to correct multiple times, and it kind of went a little viral on Twitter. And he was like, "Hey, we didn't. We were good." Even the commentator was like, "Hey, my bad. I forgot about the rule. That's why we have now a referee commentator in ESPN to explain about this. That was my bad." So that was kind of the only kind of mix up that happened on the ESPN side of it in the broadcast of Brazil. So that was funny.
Because CBS explained all that really well in terms, and then like we all knew that at that point, yes, Kansas City didn't have to rush.
Yeah, in Brazil it got a little confused, especially because the commentator is kind of like a Tony Romo kind of guy. Like he likes to be funny and spicy, and he was trying to point out his understanding of the rule, which was incorrect, and the commentator was correct him. And I don't know if one it was in Las Vegas and the other one was in Brazil, so there's like a little bit of delay. So that was funny. I didn't got to watch the Rede TV broadcasting to analyze it. I saw some highlights that they did the best they could to explain the rules, and the broadcaster Marcelo Duó is a great one, but I didn't got to see the CBS one of it.
Yeah. Well, and also just some breaking news. So, do you want to guess what the viewership in America was?
Say 108 million.
You're actually lowballing it by quite a bit. This is the highest watched Super Bowl, highest watched television broadcast in American history. 123.4 million
Whoa.
people.
My God.
And you got to think about this. There are 330 million people in this country. I mean, there's probably a couple million of those that are incarcerated. A lot of those are like little kids. You really can't contribute. I mean, we're talking about basically half of the American population that could have watched this game did.
Yeah, I'll say this is that at least half of the population who can freely choose a TV channel, like in terms of like they understand of what they're watching and the ability to watch. I say this and to think about it, the networks, that's why they fight so much about the sports rights, because there's not going to be any other product besides sports who's going to get ratings like that. Not anymore. Probably in the 90s you could argue that the last episode of Seinfeld or Friends or Group Fraser or other series could have matched the ratings of a Super Bowl or NBA Finals, but not anymore. Like especially the NFL is in another dimension.
I mean, honestly, it feels like now we're in the sports off season, and we're not. But for people who are not from America, if you're not from America, and Gus understands this, but if you're not, and you think basketball and baseball is on remotely on the same level as football, it's not. There are two sports seasons in America: when there's football and when there's not football.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I keep telling Brazilian sports fans that like American sports fans, they're like, oh, NBA must be so popular in America. People would and even baseball, like, yeah, those are sports who have fans, who has interest. But football is the king, and it's not even close right now. It's not. It's just not.
I mean, it's a cultural zeitgeist. Like literally, so like if you'll go on Taylor Swift's subreddit, there are a whole bunch of young women on there talking about football because of Taylor Swift and like learning. And a lot of them saying, "Wow, this is so much fun! I didn't know football was this entertaining and this dramatic." And there's like several of them are like, "Oh my gosh, this is what this is like to be stressed out." I understand like why my boyfriend gets stressed out over football. Like I mean, and that's why the whole Taylor Swift thing has been promoted by the NFL because they know if you bring them, they come. Some of those women are going to stick around and watch because of just
Yeah.
how crazy dramatic football is. Because unlike the camera angle CBS had, they had them from like the sidelines at an upper angle. I mean, just the production value. I mean, I turned around and told my sister this, who I was watching the game with. Football is a movie. It's a real life movie when you watch these games.
And as Spike Lee said, this isn't fake. It's real. He said about the 2004 ALCS, like, but that's something that stick to me. Like, is that's the kind of better than movies because a lot of people, oh, it's script. It's not script. Come on, man. Like people go,
Yeah.
oh, oh my god, it really. So all those players battling out their bodies and oh, but in the end, we all knew Kansas City would win. Like, come on, like,
And like
really?
it's only washouts claiming it was scripted. Like Will Compton and Arian Foster, like people who didn't make it very long in the league that are complaining. Like I'm sorry, it's a brutal game. And it's like people complaining about like Travis Kelce, yelling at Andy Reid during the game and saying that it was it was unsportsmanlike and classless. Like this is a brutal gladiator sport that takes every single emotion in you to fight through. I mean, think about these. These guys have been putting their bodies on the line week in and week out since early September just to get to this moment. This is like, what, the 20th game some of these guys have had to play.
I'll say even earlier. I'll say like from July when camp starts, they're already putting their body like for football. So,
Yeah.
You
are purposely taking years off your life for a chance to sniff that Lombardi trophy. And those guys, when they stepped on that field last night, they knew. I mean, some of them probably had the feeling, I'll probably never get back here. This is my shot. I have to do this now. And that's the beautiful thing about this. And I think that's what a lot of people who are maybe casuals don't understand about this sport. That, you can turn on a random NFL game during the weekend. It may not feel that special. But the reason why those guys are going so hard in week 3 at like Jets-Patriots in a Thursday night football game is to get to that spot. And as we saw last night, it's special. And football is special. And that game last night, to transition into it, was special, man. It was a game that the roller coaster, to say it was a roller coaster was a massive understatement. This thing was a low-scoring game in the first half. It was only 10-3, 1 touchdown to our boy Jawan Jennings, throwing a touchdown to Christian McCaffrey. And then after halftime, the Niners go up. I believe it was. Well, no. Actually, I'll take that back because the Chiefs came back. They scored a field goal. The Niners go 3 and out again. The Chiefs come back, take a lead. The Niners come back and take a lead again thanks to another Jawan Jennings touchdown. But their extra point gets blocked. And then you get some field goal trading. I forgot the rest of the regulation to get us to 19-19, including a 57-yard bomb from the Niners, from Jake Moody, just for the Chiefs to come back and score with no time left to send it to OT. Niners go down. Looked like they were going to score a touchdown in overtime, but they settle for a field goal, and the Chiefs come back with the dagger, 25-22, and just classic. I mean, do you think that this is the best Super Bowl you have seen? Like, I mean, just kind of, what were your just, I guess, general thoughts about what we saw yesterday?
First of all, we saw two really amazing coaches. It was a battle of two great minds of football coaching. Of course, I have a lot of thoughts on Kyle Shanahan, but first of all, Andy Reid. I mean, like, but one thing I feel like Andy Reid could say to Kyle Shanahan is like, "I've been there. I've been to where you are right now. I've been to what you're feeling right now. When I was in Philadelphia, I mean, I out coach and really did a masterful job, but I just couldn't get it done. So if probably I don't know if they talked after game, but if probably Andy Reid could say something to Kyle Shannon, it's like keep being what the coach that you are because uh, you get there someday. You will get there if you keep being this great coach that you are because probably Andy Reid really cherished these moments because he been to so many close but ended up failing moments.
I mean, and you have to, I guess, when you think about the Reid versus Shanahan deal, I think when it comes to Kyle Shanahan, if we want to start there, I'll make no in or buts about it. I think this is all on Kyle Shanahan. Well, okay, I think this is 75% on Kyle Shanahan. The rest of it's on Steve Wilkes, the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. Let me explain kind of what I'm saying here. The first half I thought was perfectly called by the 49ers. The failures by the 49ers in the first half, I don't think were on coaching. I think it was an execution deal. Obviously, a fumble in the first drive when they were having a great drive early on. That was an epic blunder. Of course, they had all the penalties in the second drive and then field goal in the third drive. They're outgained after three drives. I think it was like 72-6 or something like that. They dominated the early part of this game and were only up 3-0. And I knew then they were in trouble. Because when you're playing a great team like Kansas City, a team that knows how to win championships, you got to jump out on them. I mean, it's like Tennessee, Alabama, right? Like you jump out on the team, but Tennessee didn't go all the way like they could have. I mean, they were only up 27.5. They should have been up like 28.5. A team like Kansas City, you got to build as much cushion as you possibly can. They just couldn't do it. Now, I guess that kind of goes to, when we look at the quarterbacks Kyle Shanahan has had, obviously last time he was here, he had Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think it's a wild consistency that Garoppolo is a system quarterback who is not going to elevate a team past what he has around him. Now Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy played a decent game yesterday. He wasn't great, but I think he was okay. I think he made a lot of decent throws. But it was clear that he wasn't able to make certain plays that the opposite quarterback in this game could make, and Patrick Mahomes. And you got to remember, there's a reason why he was Mr. Irrelevant. It's because he's physically limited.
No, yeah, of course. I think by now we can all say that Patrick Mahomes and Brock Purdy are not in the same category as quarterback, and definitely we're going to talk about how Mahomes are separating himself and getting to the GOAT conversation. But I think you can't discount Brock Purdy. It wasn't like he was a blowout and he threw 3 interceptions and was benched at halftime. No, he carried his team the best he could up until the last play in the overtime. So definitely he is a good quarterback. He should be in an active roster, but at the same time, like Kyle Shanahan must be thinking about, like, I might need a special quarterback. I can't rely on a system quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo ended up being, or try to find a quarterback in the draft. Like they tried with Trey Lance, but they got lucky with Brock Purdy because it was supposed to be Trey Lance, not Brock Purdy, the quarterback that was brought from the draft that was going to carry San Francisco. But you must be thinking, okay, if I need to go to the market and find a quarterback to, you know, try to outdo Mahomes, who should it be? Like the
I
only,
don't think there is any option out there. I
yeah,
think
I
you got
think
you're
the only option I think is somewhere in Florida on a hammock is Tom Brady. He is he was Mahomes' kryptonite if you think about it.
Mhm.
He was
Yeah.
Mahomes' kryptonite. 2018 the AFC Championship, 2020 Super Bowl.
I mean, that certainly is a point. I mean, could you imagine if Brady came out of retirement just to like say, okay, I feel like Mahomes is threatening my GOAT status. I got to go back in and defend it. Could you imagine that arc with the 49ers?
Because right now, like we're getting to almost a point like LeBron versus Jordan, this kind of Mahomes Brady, but it's even more interesting because like Jordan retired like what 2002, 2003, like when he was done playing, like he was done with
Yeah.
the was around that time, like so he was done playing when LeBron was about to get drafted, almost like they were like but it's so more interesting because like Mahomes is getting to the goal point right up in the same season that Brady retired. So they were, one cemented his legacy on the top, but the other one, right about like really close to where he retired, is really threatening the goat.
Yeah. And, I feel like there's going to be some people who are going to use the whole, well, he's 0-2 against Brady in the postseason, so he can't be the GOAT. Well, okay. First and foremost, D Ford screwed him in the AFC title game. Patrick Mahomes never got the ball at overtime. He scored 31 points in regulation against the Bill Belichick defense. I'm not blaming that loss on Patrick Mahomes. And then against Tampa Bay, his line was awful in that game, and he had to run around all day. He had no time to throw, had to run for over like 500 yards in terms of just net yards, in terms of how much he was having to run around to avoid the Bucs. I mean, he didn't have the better team either time. It's like punishing LeBron for the losses against the Warriors, right? Like LeBron, when he was on Cleveland, never had the better team in like literally any of his finals. I mean, outside of when he was in Miami, he's never had the better team in the finals.
Yeah, like
So,
probably the only loss they can really like point him fingers is the probably the Dallas Mavericks one, and even then, like Dirk Nowitzki kind of was probably like really like a better, really better player than LeBron then,
oh yeah.
but
I
but
mean, it's like the equivalent like that for Mahomes is the Bengals. The
yeah,
second half against the Bengals. Like, I still don't know what happened there with Mahomes.
yeah,
That's just
that's
so weird that they just fell apart.
yeah, like LeBron and the Miami Heat fell apart in 2011. I think it's the same kind of comparison, but yeah, but moving forward, there's going to be a lot of questions in San Francisco. But at the same time, Brock Purdy is a key part because with his rookie contract, you can keep Devo, you can keep CMC, you can keep a lot of those great players that you have. So you are in limbo because you cannot go to the market and got a like a superstar quarterback because of the high contract that probably is gonna make other key players leave. So you kind of stuck.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think who would even be on the market. I think Kirk Cousins is on the market this offseason, but that's not that's as
Yeah.
we all know.
So,
As we all
so
know, he's the
tomorrow I have an idea for next week's podcast in terms of that. I have an idea of kind of like that. But I guess for Kyle Shanahan, 0-3 in Super Bowls, 0-2 as a coach, and that he lost as an offensive coordinator, so you cannot fully blame on him because it's more like a Dan Quinn and the defensive calling. But
I mean,
so what?
so when it comes to Shanahan, I I genuinely think this guy forgets he has Christian McCaffrey sometimes. The first 13 plays that the San Francisco 49ers ran in the second half. Do you know how many of those were runs, Gus? The first 13 plays.
One?
Yeah. One play of their first 13 while leading in the Super Bowl against Kansas City, a team that you want to keep off the field because they've got one of the greatest quarterbacks ever.
So
You gave
now
to the best running back in over a decade one time.
So now we have to wonder because it's the same like narrative that we talked 2 weeks ago when KC beat the Rams, and what we were saying, why John Harbaugh did not run the ball, and now San Francisco did it. So why two great coaches, went from running the ball, which is their specialty, especially San Francisco has a magnificent running back, one of the probably greatest of all time, from passing. There's got to be some sort of explanation, and I feel like it's more analytics. And as Colin Cowherd said, sometimes you have to go from analytics to manalytics.
Yes. Honestly, I think it's even more than that. I think it's ego. I think it's, okay, we're on one of the biggest stages we ever will be as coaches, where everyone in the world's watching us. We need to go deep right now, and we need to score. Instead of taking what the defense gives you. And I think there's a little bit of ego there that, like, okay, we're not going to let Patrick Mahomes get all the shine. And it's like, we want to go out and go flaming downfield. But, like, sometimes you just have to ground and pound. And they just refuse to do so. And it makes, especially with as effective as CMC was.
Do you think then it's a fair point about the ego, but also because grind and pound seems so archaic and so like retro, and the coaches will be like, no, I want to pass. I want to, get my wide receivers and tight ends, But sometimes you have to go back to basics.
Yeah. And running has been a fundamental part of football since the day it was invented in 1869.
Yeah.
Like, even before we had modern lines of scrimmage, you got to be able to run the ball to do well. And Kyle Shanahan forgets that sometimes. And for a coach that has such good run schemes, I don't know how he could possibly forget. But, I mentioned earlier that I don't think this is completely on him coaching-wise. Steve Wilkes should be embarrassed of his defensive play calling at the end of the game. You pressured Patrick Mahomes very well for the majority of that football game. Got after him, made him uncomfortable. So explain to me. Explain to me. Think about this. The only touchdown they scored in regulation was gifted to them by a muff punt. Kansas City did not drive all the way down the field for the majority of this game because San Francisco was aggressive on defense. But then, all of a sudden, with the game on the line, okay, we're just going to sit back. We're just going to play zone. We're not going to pressure Pat Mahomes. We're just going to let one of the greatest quarterbacks ever just sit back and have all the time in the world that he possibly could need to make plays. And he did that the very last possession in regulation and in overtime.
As I told you on WhatsApp, that play remind me a lot of the Clemson, Alabama, when Deshaun Watson threw the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much I think it was almost the same play to Mecole Hardman, who, I mean, what a journey for him. He was on the Chiefs, left the Chiefs, and came back and is now a legend in Chiefs lore for catching a game-winning Super Bowl pass, which is pretty cool. Yeah, but if you're the 49ers, though, that they should have won that game. The 49ers, I think, had the better team overall, and I think they played the better game for the most part. Yeah. But, man, just little minor details got
I mean, and the biggest of the minor details that decided was that missed extra point because, when you tie a regulation, 1 point made a difference. You
Yeah.
know, that imagine the kicker thinking about right now. If he hadn't missed that field goal, that would have been celebrations in San Francisco.
Yeah. And it's really, when you think about the 49ers, we give the Cowboys all this crap about them not making the Super Bowl, not winning the Super Bowl. The 49ers have a longer drought than the Cowboys.
And I
And with
think it's
regard, the 49ers
worse.
is a consistent contender.
No, I don't know which is worse because if you think about it, uh, do you wanna be a contender, but lose three Super Bowls on this big drought, or at least you don't make it and you don't at least feel sad on the last game. I don't know. Of course, you want to win it to get there and win, but it's kind of. I think it bothers more San Francisco than bothers Dallas, the drought, because you get so close and you come up short. And if you think about it, they get to the Super Bowl with three quarterbacks that are B minus to C plus, like Colin Kaepernick, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Brock Purdy. They are B minus quarterbacks.
Yeah, what they remind me of a little bit is Gonzaga. The Gonzaga of the NFL. In terms of like how many times they've been in the Final Four, how many times they get really close, and they can't find a way to get it done because they're not playing with the best parts.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just crazy to me. But kind of on the Chiefs, we're talking about obviously Mahomes potentially now in that GOAT conversation. Up there with Brady now with 3 rings. And think about this. I saw someone mention this. We are D Ford saying onside in 2018. Him having a line against Tampa and a meltdown against the Bengals from Mahomes maybe having 6 Super Bowl rings. There is a universe where he has 6.
Yeah, but from those losses in the AFC Championship, they would have still have to play in the Super Bowl. I know in 2018 they will probably have the best chance because I think that Rams team probably would have lost to KC too.
Well,
But
remember the Rams had beaten KC in that regular season 54-51.
yeah, and I think also in that 2020 in the Super Bowl against the Rams as well. It's so funny. Both times KC was denied a match with the Rams in the Super Bowl.
I think they would have split those. I think they would have won one, lost one. So
I don't know. I think they would have won in 2018 and would have lost in 2022. I think that 2022 Rams was like uh, in that peak. In all those players were in peak. In Matthew Stafford, all those players were in their peak. Probably, and KC were having problems throughout the season.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But moving forward, obviously, I think it's safe to say Chiefs are a dynasty.
Definitely in this decade. This decade, they are the dynasty in football.
Now, let's talk about the future here for the Kansas City Chiefs. They will be aiming for what few have done before next year. They are maybe looking for the three-peat. And I think, first of all, before we even get into that, one of the most interesting points about last night, think about what happened 2 off seasons ago. They got rid of Tyreek Hill, the best wide receiver they've ever had, traded him away, and they have 2 Super Bowls since then. Tyreek Hill last night was coping on Twitter saying, that people were like making fun of him for not having any rings in Miami. And he was like, well, where's your ring at? And, because, obviously he does have a ring with KC. But I feel like, if you're Tyreek Hill, doesn't this have to hurt his legacy a little bit?
What I don't understand in pro football, and I would love an agent or a former player to talk about this. Like, I know you want to value your work, and Tyreek Hill is definitely a gifted athlete, but would you consider to get less money and play for a team that you get titles and you get that money on sponsorships? Wouldn't you be interested in thinking about this, like look at Tom Brady. Like he's the primary example of that.
Well, I mean, I think there's multiple factors here. I think if Tyreek Hill wanted to be in a big market, I mean, Miami is a lot bigger than Kansas City. I think he just like, I wanted to live by the beach instead of Kansas City. I wanted to get paid more than I would in Kansas City. So, and Miami fit all those bills. I think it
So
wasn't just about football for him.
So if he prioritize all that, he cannot be moping on social media and be like that. Like, so it was your choice to get more money, to live by the beach, and be in a bigger market. So, people make choices. I get it. And, thank God for free market. And, the NFL has multiple franchise. They can, trying to fit in the best the best available option, but then you cannot mope on social media about not being part of the dynasty anymore. Like it was your choice. Like you could have been, you would have sacrificed some things, but you would have been rewarded in terms of legacy. Like so, his
Oh, for
legacy
sure.
is being a gifted athlete that was part of the beginning of the dynasty, but chose the beach and money. That's am I wrong?
I know you're not wrong. I'm not saying Tyreek Hill's wrong for doing that for sure. Like,
No, no, no.
like,
Yeah, no.
yeah,
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying he's wrong about doing it. I'm just pointing out facts
yeah.
of his choices.
Right. And then you have to ask yourself, too. I mean, if he thought maybe Miami was going to make him more relevant, I'll ask you, who's more relevant right now, him or Travis Kelce?
Yeah, yeah. But it's not fair to compare because Trevor Kelsey is also dating one of the most popular singers and songwriters in the world. So of course he has a boost, but definitely Kelsey legacy in football. Not saying about like being more famous, about legacy in football. Kelsey definitely way more than Tyreek Hill, and again because of you know all the factors that I listed.
I mean, I think Kelsey's the greatest tight end of all time. I think, to me, I
Uh,
mean, you can
no,
argue some other guys, but
Rob Gronkowski should be there too. Rob Gronkowski should be there
I
too.
think Kelsey's better than Gronk.
No, Gronk is way better. Gronk was way more reliable and way look how reliable he was. That Tom Brady make him got out of retirement, join him in Tampa, and both got a Super Bowl. So I'm just saying, like if you want to put the
I just think Kelsey's more athletic. I think he's more versatile than Gronk, and I think
but
he's been
but
huge to Mahomes' rise.
like Gronk was huge to
Oh, I'm not saying
Brady.
Gronk wasn't to Brady. I just think Kelsey has been better
For
personally.
me, Gronk was more reliable.
Actually,
Like, like Kelsey, of course, deserved to be praised, but in the Super Bowl, he wasn't much used, especially in the first half. And Gronk, when Brady needed the most, was there. So it's a conversation that isn't like gray arguments. So in the same group they put Travis Kelsey, you should put Rob Gronkowski.
yeah, actually, I'm trying to pull up some side by side stat comparisons with Gronk and Kelsey. If I can find
Yeah,
some.
we can. I like the topic. So we have for next week topic we have tight end goat conversation. We have to list it there. So next week
Yeah,
have
let's do Kelsey versus Gronk. And I know you also, when I mentioned Cousins, what about Cousins versus like Purdy?
yeah,
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 I think that would be
or
pretty
even
interesting.
Purdy or quarter or other quarterback star. Like we can compare and in terms of contracts and stuff, but definitely it would be great topics for next week when we really
Yeah,
start the football.
like would Dak win a Super Bowl with the 49ers?
Yeah, yeah. See, that's
That's an
why we're
interesting
gonna
one.
be. So that's what we're gonna be
But
talking next week. But in the terms of game itself, like we have to praise one VFL
yep,
definitely
Jawan
Juwan
Jennings.
Jennings.
Jawan Jennings, baby. Man, what a game. And I was hoping for the 49ers to win by the end of it because I wanted him to be the MVP. Although
And
I
he
think if they
should.
had
He should. I mean, there were people arguing before Brendan Ayuk and even Brock Purdy.
CMC, I think, would have won it. He had like nearly 200 total yards. I mean, I think he would
Yeah,
have won it.
or even CMC too, which is fair. But for me, Juwan Jennings, like he throw and catch in the Super Bowl. Come on, like can't get any better than that.
It was amazing. I was just so proud watching him. It was amazing. Yeah, he almost got kicked off. Okay, so speaking of that, we got to talk about this guy. Our former friend,
we have to address the elephant in the room.
Yeah, literally the elephant, the former elephant, the former intern elephant in the room. The Butch Jones taking. So he reposted the clip of 2015 where Juwan Jennings threw to Josh Dobbs for a touchdown. Which, okay, I got a couple of problems with this. One, Butch Jones. That is your worst loss to Tennessee. That loss to Florida. That one game set you on a path to failure. Because if you don't lose to Florida that day, you go to the SEC title in 2015. And I think maybe you could have weathered 2017. But, so you're going to choose to remember, like, what was the most consequential loss of your coaching tenure. Makes no sense. And then two, you tried to kick Juwan off the team in 2017 when everything was falling apart, when people were, quote, tripping over helmets and stuff. You were trying to kick Juwan off. A guy that had just had one of the most legendary plays in school history the year before against Georgia, and another legendary catch the week before that against Florida. And then we're going to talk about getting rid of Juwan. I mean, there was a reason why the fan base was revolted over Juwan, and why when he showed up to the protest the day after the Vandy game, we were chanting "Free Juwan, Free Juwan." You know, like, I mean, Butch Jones trying to take credit for Juwan Jennings is ridiculous. I know he recruited him to Knoxville or whatever, but that dude can't take credit for crap because he is a moron.
No, it's like I told him the comparison. It's like a stepdad who, I guess, kind of, starts taking good care of the kid, but then gives crap and treat badly. And then when the kid accomplishes something, he's like, "Oh, that's my boy." Like, no, it wasn't. Like, he was good despite you, not because of you.
Correct. And then you brought in Jarrett Garantano, so he had to play with an awful quarterback the majority of his career. Outside of having Josh Dobbs his freshman year. And by the way, I told their friends this. I don't know if you would agree with this. I think if Juwan Jennings was the quarterback in 2019 and not Jarrett Garantano, we don't lose to Georgia State, we don't lose to BYU, and we're 9-3.
Really? If you think Juwan Jennings would have been a better quarterback than Jarrett Garantano?
Yes. I think he would have been more effective.
Yeah, I guess that's fair, but nevertheless, like, what a play, and he definitely is a. Then now he is one of the two Tennessee football players that throw a pass in the Super Bowl, along with Peyton Manning.
That's insane. That no other Tennessee quarterback has ever done it. I'll tell you who's going to do it soon. No, Nico Iamaleava, in about 10 years. I'll go on record right now. Or maybe Hendon Hooker will with Detroit. Maybe he will, but one day. But that we'll see about that. I still wanted to ask about the Chiefs. Of course, talking about next year, the three-peat. How likely do we think the three-peat is going to be?
It all depends if Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen are healthy or not. That path depends on. I know more Burrow because Burrow has been more kryptonite than Josh Allen. Like, it looks like for Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes is a kryptonite. But I think the AFC, it all depends if your quarterback is healthy or not. Because if you lose one of those three quarterbacks, the franchises that can kind of threaten the three-peat, then they probably fell apart. Because how gifted they are. Look at Cincinnati this year. They had Jake Browning, which is a good quarterback. They could even be closer to what they were.
Yeah, and I mean, it feels like for Baltimore, it feels like this was their No, best shot. So I don't know
Yeah.
if they're gonna be able to threaten the same way next year. Cincy, I think they'll be back. Of course, they got to figure out Jamar Chase's contract. They're probably going to let him. They're probably going to let Higgins walk. I would think. So I'm curious to see where Higgins ends up. I think when you look at that division too. I mean, the Broncos are kind of a shell of their former selves right now. They're kind of figuring out things. They're in the post Russell Wilson era. Raiders are in a transition right now. Obviously, they brought in Antonio Pierce. But I think the team that's most interesting to me, with Jim Harbaugh now back in the NFL, can he turn Justin Herbert into a superstar? That, to me, is the biggest question. Because if Herbert can be a superstar, then that would actually give the Chiefs a legitimate interdivision threat that they haven't had now in a couple of years. And I think that's really the key here. If the Chargers can become that interdivision threat, that will make a three-peat path that much more difficult. I don't know if the Chargers will be there next year, though.
It all depends how Jim Harbaugh can turn around. And history shows in the NFL, he did that. San Francisco. Look how fast he turned around that franchise from 6-10 to 13-3. So there's a path. And also, look how, despite KC inconsistency, they were only able to win the division because all the teams fell apart. All the three teams and even then, for example, they lost to Vegas, the Raiders, in December, even though they were not competing for anything. So I think if the division gets tough, then probably be a big obstacle for a three-peat.
Yeah, and then you have to ask, are there any teams that we're not thinking about that's going to show up? Like Cincinnati, when they went to the Super Bowl, they came out of nowhere. Could a Houston be that team, right?
Or even, can Jacksonville? Because, you have Trevor Lawrence. You have.
I think Lawrence is like Kirk Cousins. I think he has a ceiling.
I don't know.
I mean, Miami. Can Miami do something now? Can they learn from some of their lessons? Or are they doomed to be like San Francisco? Is Mike McDaniel just poor man Kyle Shanahan?
Yeah, I would say that for Miami, it all depends if Tua is a reliable quarterback or not.
And I don't trust him to be the quarterback, though.
How? Yeah. So.
I'll tell you to do it though. Will Levis will be the one to end the KC dynasty next January.
Pump the brakes, Nicholas Hill. I know. Let's all be serious. As much as he has potential, he has a lot to grow to be at least a quarterback that can bring a team to the playoffs. He might prove me wrong, and
I would be happy to have a winning record next year for the Titans. If I'm being serious, I don't expect to be in the playoffs next year. Let's just put it like that. At least I have more hope than the Carolina Panthers.
Of course, we're going to discuss in the next 2 weeks about the top teams in the AFC and the NFC, but about the game itself, and let's wrap up. Because I think
in addition as we're wrapping up the game, let's wrap up the season as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Because this is not just the end of the NFL, but it's the end of this football season, right? And it's always a time to really think about a lot of things unravel here during football season, right? Like for college, especially, it was like the end of an era because we're entering into a brand new unknown, and it's going to be interesting next year because while college football is this wild animal that we haven't seen before, the NFL will be still something familiar to us as we move forward.
And what I'm thinking, what I was thinking about yesterday, in terms of differences, probably when that 2020 Super Bowl ended, was the new era, and now I'm thinking we are in a new era in terms of star quarterbacks. Like the quarterbacks that we knew are all gone. The quarterbacks of our time, of our teenage years. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, um, uh, uh, you know,
Ben Roethlisberger and
yeah, Big Ben,
Aaron
and
Rodgers. Well, Aaron Rodgers is still out there, I guess. But
the one from New Orleans. Oh my God, I forgot his
Drew
name.
Brees, Drew Brees, Drew Brees.
Drew Brees, and all those star quarterbacks that were big in the early 2000s until like 2019, they're all gone. And this new era, the Patrick Mahomes kind of is the goat, like the Brady was starting to be the goat back in the '03 and '04. But Brady also had competition like Mahomes had. Brady back then had Big Ben, Peyton Manning, and now um, and now Mahomes has all in the same division. Unfortunately, all the star quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be a fun ride, and I think a lot of people are saying they're getting annoyed at Casey, but like this is the beautiful thing about sports, right? You get dynasties, you get Michael Jordan, you get LeBron, you get the Warriors, but now it's everyone else's job now to find a way to topple them, and for the other 31 NFL teams, it's going to be a long off season because it's your job to take out Kansas City, and Kansas City is thinking now about immortality
Like
being the
probably
Cruise.
what we were discussing, what we discussed, oh my God, what we are talking right now, it kind of probably familiar to what pundits were discussing back in '04 when the Patriots got the back-to-back championships and three on the last 4 years. So it kind of feels like a similar conversation. Everybody were like, "Is the is Brady in the path to be the GOAT, and who can stop the Patriots?" And the season in the 10 seasons after that, they figure it out. So I guess if there's some similarities between dynasties that after the Patriots had success in their early decade, like KC's having it, teams figured out how to stop them.
Right. And, the Patriots never won three straight in a row. They won the three out of four. No team has ever won three in a row. As I said, Kansas City has a date with immortality next year. Let's see if they can get with it. I think for San Francisco, it's just soul searching. You have the talent. I think you can keep most of it. And the NFC, I think, should still remain relatively favorable. I don't know who will be your best competition because Philadelphia is in crisis. Dallas is in crisis. I think Green Bay is an exciting team that's only getting better. I think they will be really good. I think them and Detroit next year should have one heck of a battle for the NFC North. NFC South, I don't really see anyone being competitive anytime soon. Also, the AFC, we didn't think about the Jets. If Aaron Rodgers can be healthy for a full year, that's a dangerous team too.
Yeah,
With all the
like
talent they have.
don't count the Jets out just yet. Like,
And I think
I
also too,
know.
the season has a lot of what ifs too. In terms of like if Aaron Rodgers was actually healthy, or just certain things go a different way. But yeah, I think for this NFL season, I saw some people say that they thought the season sucked. Overall, I still think it was a pretty entertaining season, and of course had an epic finish.
For me, I definitely want to do next week top 5 moments of the NFL 2023-2024 season, and I'm going to really think about it. But no, my overall feeling is it reminds me a lot of the '04-'05 season, of a team that is clearly the dynasty of our decade and the team that despite all the problems, still figure out a way to get there again. And it's a job, especially in the AFC, from Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Buffalo to figure out a way to stop them, like back in the 2000s, the first decade of the millennium. Teams were able to figure out New England, like the Denver Broncos beat them in '05 and '06. Back in '06 and '07,
The Colts.
Indianapolis, the Colts were able to stop them. Even in the magical '08 season where they were the undefeated throughout the whole regular season and postseason. They couldn't beat the New York Giants. So, that's for me like, their teams eventually figure out. But
I think
it's
that's,
not.
there's two ways the Chiefs can really overtake the Patriots in terms of dynasty. One, the perfect season. If you can accomplish that, which I think is really, really hard with 17 games in the regular season. And then, two, if you can get the free peat next year. I think those two things would separate you.
Imagine this. Imagine if Kansas City were able to win undefeated three-peat. Both things, both things that New England Patriots came close but never did it. Imagine that.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
the pressure. Imagine the pressure they would feel heading into the Super Bowl next year.
yeah,
All the pressure would be on Kansas City.
that's true. Because it would be like, if they accomplished that, they would accomplish two things that the New England Patriots, the dynasty of of this millennium, came close but never did it.
I mean, and what that would mean for Mahomes versus Brady as well would be
Yeah,
immense. So,
but I don't think it's gonna happen again. I don't think Mahomes has the number of star players and the deep roster that Brady had in that season to be able to win all 17, now 18 games, if you think about it.
right. I will say this at least as it comes to Mahomes. He didn't need Tyreek Hill to win the last two. That's all I got to say. So, all I'm going to say is don't bet against the Chiefs moving forward. Although I think it's impossible to go undefeated at this point in time. But in any case, as I said last night to myself, to football, so long, my love. See you in August. Because, it's, as I said, as we said at the top of the show, there's football season and then there's non-football season. But we're now in non-football season. But we still have football news off the field. Just some college notes real quick. First and foremost.
And Nick, and to think about it, now the next NFL game in the regular season, a game that counts, is going to be played here in our beloved Brazil on September. Oh no, that no, the second game.
That'll be the second game. Yeah, Kansas City will have the first one.
They should have been the opener in Brazil. They should have been the opener. But I guess the second game in the next season is going to be played in our beloved Brazil. Watching that Super Bowl made me really, really want to go in that September 6th game. Hopefully, he's a good opponent. Definitely when the game is set, definitely going to talk about it. But now it's time for the winter of football.
Yeah, it's non-football season now. But we still have some football to talk about. So it never truly dies right here on the Two Countries to America All Sports podcast. We got to talk about Chip Kelly. So he was UCLA's head coach, had an okay tenure there, but he has decided to become the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. Probably one of the weirdest self-demotions I've ever seen. For Chip Kelly.
No, I got what he did. Like, if you want to go back to relevance, you prefer to be in a coordinator spot on the program that now is on a rise. Think about it. Ohio State got a lot of players from the transfer portal, especially a lot of players from Bama, and Michigan now is going to be good, but definitely is going to have a little downfall because when you lose Jim Harbaugh, definitely is going to take a toll. I'm not saying they're going to be bad, but I'm saying now the window's right open, and when you're Ohio State and you have that window, you have to go bold and try to get the great coaches to join you as a coordinator. And for Chip Kelly is, if I do a great job as a coordinator in Ohio State, then we'll open up markets for more relevant football programs, because UCLA is known for basketball, not for football.
That's correct. And, as you said, they are the second-hand team in their city behind USC. And really, when you think about the two NFL teams, they're the fourth top football team in their own city, with the two NFL
Yeah.
teams and USC. Like, it's just, I think UCLA is in an awful position heading into the Big Ten. They're going to be a bottom feeder.
Yeah, and also that take into consideration for Chip Kelly. Do I want to coach a bottom feeder, bottom in the a team in the bottom, or do I want to be a coordinator of the favorite to win the conference? Because now Ohio State is a favorite.
Oh, absolutely. I think, especially with Jim Harbaugh going, of
To
course,
the NFL.
Yeah. And for UCLA, they have hired Deshaun Foster, a former running back for UCLA. He had taken the running backs coach job as the Raiders. So definitely a hire that doesn't have much experience, but I don't think he really had much choice in February.
Yeah, when you lose a coach like that, you go to the safe choice. You like, especially trying to find some sort of a connection, and they found experienced coach with NFL ties that have a connection to your program.
Oh, absolutely. But I still think it's going to be a rough ride for UCLA. And for Chip Kelly, I'll be curious to see, too. I wonder if this is going to be like another Bobby Petrino and Jimbo Fisher situation. Because Ryan Day has been the play caller at Ohio State. He's been in command of that offense for years. Is he really going to let Chip Kelly come in and take the reins on that offense?
That's something they're going to have to figure out throughout this whole offseason.
Yeah, but then again, with 3 straight losses to Michigan, Ryan Day may be desperate enough to do it. So, we'll see what happens. Of course, this past Wednesday was National Signing Day, the second one. Really nothing big changed in the rankings. It's sad because February National Signing Day used to be big, and now December National Signing Day has basically killed it.
Why you have both? Why?
I just don't know why we're doing this. I don't know why we're doing half of the stuff we're doing in college football at this point. None of it makes any sense. We need to go back to one National Signing Day. I don't think there's really any reason to have a December signing day. It never made sense when they announced it. And now it's just the amount of pressure put on coaches. Like, we're seeing all these coaches leave. I think that's part of it too. Like, why Chip Kelly doesn't want to be a head coach anymore. Why, Boston College coach Jeff Hafley, he left to be the DC at Green Bay for the Packers. We're seeing a lot of coaches bail right now from college football because it's so stressful and it's an untenable situation. And the rules that are haphazardly forced.
No wonder Jim Harbaugh and no beater made his choice to go back to the NFL, because he was like, "Hey, I have this opportunity to leave on a high in a big program like Michigan. Um, if there's any NCAA punishment, it wouldn't affect me because I did my legacy. Because even if they go extreme as stripping the title, it still be my resume that I won, and I go back to the NFL as the a coach that won a natty with a big program, but I also have the NFL experience. So Jim Harbaugh is just a big example of all the other coaches that you mentioned that are like, hey, I probably want to take my football coaching talents to something more predictable and less stressful.
Yeah. Or I'm just done with football together. Look at Nick Saban and getting a big contract to be on College Game Day. To basically be the Lee Corso replacement moving forward. I mean, Nick Saban's going to have far less stress, still gets to go to football games, and now gets to build himself into a bigger brand. All right.
And for ESPN too, it was a required signing, because when you now take over as the network in the conference, because they were sharing with CBS. Of course, ESPN had broadcast a lot of SEC games. When it comes to the games, CBS got those, but now it's all ABC, ESPN with the SEC. So hiring Nick Saban made sense for them, because now they have kind of counterpart um, uh, of what Fox has, with Urban Meyer.
Oh yeah. I didn't even think about that. But that's another Urban Meyer versus Nick Saban situation. So I think
Yeah,
Saban's going to kill it in that role. Speaking of Alabama, real quick, I forgot to add this one in just until a second ago. Their OC, so Kalen DeBoer, obviously new coach down at Alabama, brought in his OC from Washington, Ryan Grubb, who did a great job with the Huskies. He decided he went to Tuscaloosa. He looked around like, you know what? I don't like it down here in Alabama. And I can't blame him, right? It's Alabama. So he decided to go back to Seattle to be the Seahawks OC under Mike McDonald. And what's weird about this is apparently when he took the job in Alabama, he knew the Seahawks were interested in him as the OC, still took it anyway as a favor to his friend Kalen DeBoer. They didn't tell the players. And after the 30-day transfer period ended after Saban retired, that's when he left.
yeah. First of all, I get it. Like when you have the chance to go back to the city that you're used to, and for big job like being the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, of course you're gonna take it. Cause and let's be real, like as much as Alabama Crimson Tide is a great football program and Tuscaloosa is a great city that has a lot of amenities and a lot of passion fans and a lot of things that people enjoy it. Seattle, Washington is more relevant in football as a whole. And, I got the move, but definitely it was kind of sleazy.
It was very sleazy. And I think already not endearing, right? Like, I would, as an Alabama fan, I would be very much questioning this staff moving forward. Like, how real are you people, right? Because, I mean, you were just coming off our most legendary coach in program history. Yeah, Saban, I would put over Bear Bryant. And now, you are not Saban. You got to make your own name for it. And you're already doing crazy stuff like this. And we haven't even played a football game yet. So we'll see how this affects that team. If I'm Jalen Milroe, I know I'm mad, right? I like about it. But, hey, they still got a lot of talent. We'll see what they do. Back up here in Knoxville real quick. Josh Heupel. Of course, tomorrow is the big game day for Tennessee in a federal courthouse up in Greenville against the NCAA. I will personally be tailgating. I'm just kidding. I'm not tailgating for a court hearing. They've actually told fans not to tailgate or to do a ball walk or to show up if you don't have official business in Greenville, Tennessee tomorrow. I would get
there's going to be fans who are going to show up. The Vol Nation. Vol Nation is something else. You know that, Nick.
Well, if we didn't have the Lookout Stadium votes going on starting tomorrow, I would go out there. But obviously, I've got my own sports stuff to deal with here in Chattanooga. So we're going to be deciding whether or not we want that new stadium. But in any case, Josh Heupel came out and has joined the lawsuit against the NCAA officially. He said, and I'm quoting here from Outkick writer Trey Wallace. He said, quote, because we're unable to help recruits navigate these issues, they don't have the full picture of all the opportunities that are available to them, which can cause them to make poor decisions. Recruits often don't know, like we do, the reputation and trustworthiness of who they are working with, and without that information, they can pick a school that isn't the best fit for them based off of false promises of NIL that never come to fruition. So basically, he is saying to expect coaches and programs to not involve NIL in recruiting is unfair to the players. It's unfair to free commerce. Because think about this. As we've talked about before, you don't take a job without knowing what the salary is or without asking what the salary is. Why should we expect players to do the same thing?
Oh my God, I'll be rooting for Tennessee so much, probably as much as I root them on the gridiron or on the basketball court, because this lawsuit can finally take down the Berlin Wall of the American sports. I call it the Berlin Wall. When the Berlin Wall fell, the communism took a shot, and NCAA is the communism of American sports. So if that takes Josh Heupel and Tennessee to take down that wall, so be it. And and will make me even a bigger Tennessee football fan than I'm already am.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually met a guy who was on the Berlin Wall, like literally in the '80s the other day, a veteran who was in
Oh,
Germany when that happened. So that's a pretty cool comparison. But yeah,
but do you think my comparison makes sense?
yes, it totally makes sense. And as I kind of said in our football season retrospective, college football, we're entering a new world, and NCAA, I don't think it's going to be a part of that new world for much longer. So go Vols, go Tennessee AG office. You are the temporary Vols for us inside the courtroom. Go get them out there in Greenville.
Yeah.
One more Vols note. We did lose our running backs coach, Jerry Mack. He went to the Jaguars to be their running backs coach. Did a pretty good job here. Was a good recruiter. Rumor is we may be going after Colorado's running back coach. So that's, obviously it's a positional hire. So, it's not like it's like the make or break hire, but obviously you want as good of a staff as possible. So hopefully we can get a good coach there. All right. Finally getting off of football here. Off to now, the sport now that's going to be up next. So football is over. What sport's next up in the limelight? Dun, 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 dun. It's college basketball. And now people will actually start paying attention to it to an extent. Unless you're like me and you actually watch it to a well, not say unhealthy degree. I don't watch it like I used to, but I did watch. I haven't watched obviously all the basketball games, and it was a mixed week last week. First and foremost, we had a pretty good one against LSU, 20.1 at home. A game where we dominated for most of it, but we almost let them come back towards the end. But Dalton Connect, finished them off. But Saturday night in primetime on ESPN, after we had been a 1 seed, according to Joe Lindenari, for at the end of last week, we went down to College Station in Texas A&M and got our ass kicked. It was probably the worst game we've played all year. Offensively, we just were a complete no-show. And defensively, we were getting punked by a team that really isn't that good offensively. They made, I think, 13 threes when they normally only make 6. And really what was, I think, the most concerning thing to me is our lack of offensive rebounding. We just could not rebound the ball. A&M was doing whatever they wanted underneath. And this, in all of our losses this year, the common thread in all of them is a large physical center. Now, I'm telling you right now, the player that needs to start stepping up the most in these games is Jonas Aidoo. Jonas Aidoo can be really, really good when he wants to be, but the problem is this guy, for as tall as he is and as gifted as he is, he's not tough. He's not physical. And when he plays a big center, he gets bullied every single time, and it's costing us these games. Like when we played South Carolina, when we played Mississippi State, and now this game they're going against Texas A&M, we're getting bullied down low. Toby Walker, frankly, is playing these guys better, but Toby Walker keeps on fouling. He can't stay on the bench. And then, I have to say it, Santiago Vescovi, sir, where are you? Where are you, sir? I haven't seen this guy in a few games. He has unfortunately stunk here the past few weeks. Now,
What Vols fans are asking, and you point out 2 prime examples, is this team, as this roster as a whole, reliable, or is one player dependent? Is too much dependent on one player? Sometimes it works in March because it's such a kind of fast playoff. It's not like and Tennessee's gonna get there. And according to the latest estimates, I think they're gonna play South Dakota State. From what I saw, I think I don't know.
That's a team that's pulled off some upsets in the past. I don't know how good they are right now, but that's a pro.
And according, I don't know if Joe Leonardo know where, but I saw that one from one that is update from this weekend after the games of this weekend. The bracket that I saw had Tennessee face South Dakota State, and then next they'll face the winner of Michigan State and Florida Atlantic.
No, sir. No.
Yeah. So Tennessee is definitely not on a good bracket right now. So they got to play better.
I'll say this, and I'm sharing a current bracket right now from ESPN. I'll say this: if we can avoid, um, if we can avoid a team with a big physical center, we have a shot. But
So, well, the
but
ESPN.
we're
I
down in this
wanted to,
bottom left.
yeah. So Tennessee right now, yeah, that's a better one. Texas Tech, Butler, Troy.
Texas Tech. Remember last time we played Texas Tech? That was a low score and awful defensive game. Like that game, I wouldn't like that matchup because we beat Wisconsin earlier in the year. So I think we could totally win that game. And they're like in a kind of a dogfight. They're kind of in a tailspin right now. Honestly, I think BYU would make it out of those four. And I'm not too familiar with BYU, but I just know they're very highly rated on KenPom, so that would make me a little nervous. Arizona, I think that's a team we could actually match up pretty well with. Tommy Lloyd, we beat his team 3 years ago in Knoxville. We went over to Tucson and had just one of the worst officiated games I've ever seen in my life. And if that wasn't such a poorly officiated game, we could have won. So I think that would be a good bracket for us. I think that's the bracket we can make the Final Four in. But that's the key. We're going to have to, as long as we don't play a physical center, we'll win. But if we run into a physical center and Jonas Idu lays down and lets them do whatever they want, then it's going to be the same result we've seen every March. And we're kind of now just kind of waiting until we get a bracket in a month. So, I don't even know how much really the results matter here. I mean, obviously, you want as high of a seed as possible, and the 1 seed is still attainable. Like the A&M, it was a quad 1 loss. It isn't going to hurt us any. Obviously, you can't lose to Vandy this week at home. And Vandy, obviously, is not very good. Can't lose at Arkansas on Wednesday night either. Arkansas has been awful. But dealing with a lot of rumors around that program about potential inter-team conflicts and whatever, but can't lose either one of these games. If you lose to Arkansas or Vandy, you can kiss the 1 seed goodbye because either one of those losses would be really bad. So take care of business this week. Go undefeated until we get to the end of this month, and we have a really tough run of games with Alabama, South Carolina, Kentucky, Auburn, because that's when you can really make that push for a 1 seed. So while Saturday night was not good, it isn't like the end of the world. So we'll just move on and get Vandy, hopefully, and get Arkansas.
Yeah, definitely. Those two games that Tennessee at least should won one, but cannot lose both. And and it's definitely those two games definitely can set Tennessee up or very bottom in terms of seeding.
Yeah. Additionally, as well, Kentucky. Speaking of the sky falling, Kentucky lost at home to Gonzaga. Gonzaga team that's not the Gonzaga team that your parents grew up with. They are. They've lost 3 games at home for the first time in a row since 1967. Coach Cal is going to need a magical March run, or else he's done in Lexington.
Come on, again. I know I sound like a in repeat, but Coach Calipari, you won one title, you did a good job, but it really feels like a couple that both don't like each other, but they have to live in the same place because one of them cannot avoid moving, or they trying to make the work as a roommates instead of a romantic relationship. It feels like that at this point. It's either Coach Calipari doesn't want to leave because of lifetime contract, and Kentucky doesn't want to fire him because probably the I don't know how much would have been as a bail not bailout buyout the
Yeah.
contract.
I mean,
So
what fan base of Kentucky is more mad? Look, Louisville or Kentucky?
Kentucky, because Kentucky has been in this kind of a messy divorce, I feel like, for the past 4 or 5 years. Especially,
Yeah.
I think that the peak of the divorce is when they lost in the first round in the NCAA tournament against, I
Yes.
think, a real
St. Peter's.
to St. Peter's. That was
Yeah.
probably like the fight that really got the divorce, but they just can't move from where they are, and
Yeah.
like a relationship, you just gotta rip the band-aid, take the losses, and move on.
Yeah. Speaking of other struggling Blue Bloods as well, Kansas tonight lost at Texas Tech on the road by 29, 79-50. Horrible. Kansas has some rough losses too, and that's the thing about college basketball. Because we only dropped 2 spots to 8. No team has been consistent at all this year, outside of maybe Purdue, outside of maybe them, and UConn. Everyone else has struggled. Additionally, Indiana now 14-10. They lost by 20 the other night in Mackey Arena to Purdue. Um, so just a very interesting how much all these teams are struggling. And one last men's college basketball shout out to Indiana State. They are ranked number 23 today. First time they've been ranked since 1979 when they had a little known basketball player from French Lick named Larry Bird. And of course, Larry Bird took them all the way to the national title game. So, shout out to the Sycamores of Indiana State, a team that I would perhaps be scared to play in March if we had to play them. Additionally, I've been meaning to keep up a little bit more of women's college basketball. Of course, Lady Vols have been frustrating this year beyond no belief, but tonight they had a really good win, 81-55 over Arkansas, a really good win. And coming into today, according to Charlie Cream, they were the last team in the last 4 buys. So right now they're in the tournament. So Kelly Harper may actually keep our tournament streak intact as a women's basketball program. Now, it still doesn't say the fact that the season has been bad,
but it again reminds me a lot of the last year of Holly Warlick. Holly was able to keep the streak alive and made, I think she was in the last 4 on that tournament, and she got blown out by UCLA. She was done. So it reminds me a lot of the last season of Holly Warlick. It seems like we're destined for a last season of Kelly Harper.
Yeah. Also, Jason Wyrick is still watching. Right now, Charlie Kareem in his bracket has Tennessee as 11 seed in Louisville. And if Tennessee were to beat Creighton in the first round, we're looking at a Tennessee-Louisville second round game.
Whoa.
So I know we've had to do that before in women's basketball. So I know that was painful for him. So I hope we don't have to do that again. That seems to be a recurring theme, but I think Louisville would get the upper hand on that one easily. All right, so more Tennessee news, but we're moving outside. It's actually been warmer recently, Gus, believe it or not, because we had our cold start, but it's been in the 60s. It's been great recently. That means it's time for some stick and ball sports. Baseball, softball, it's back. Of course, the baseballs, number 9 in the country, Tony Vitello, the one coach on this campus that knows how to win championships and get to the big event. Rick Barnes, you can join them. Please, please, please learn from Tony V. But it's Tennessee baseball season. And, I'm excited to see what the boys can do here. Of course, trying to get back to Omaha for the 3rd time in 4 years. And I'm just curious to see if they can have maybe a bit of a smoother season than they did last year. Because I remember they struggled through most of last year just to get really hot at the end. And this weekend, they have a couple of Big 12 opponents. They're going to be playing Texas Tech Friday night, Oklahoma Saturday, and Baylor on Sunday at the Ranger Stadium.
Oh, fun! It's always fun to watch college baseball in the MLB stadiums. Definitely, I would love to, watch it. And I definitely trust Tony V, but it's starting to wondering, is his ceiling making it to the College World Series, or can he pass that?
I mean, I'm not at that point to start asking that question with him because, gotta remember, Tennessee baseball 5 years ago was nothing.
No, yeah.
He's still building it.
But is he and his program hit a ceiling, or are they going to be finally at least making it to the the finals.
We're gonna have to be waiting and see, right? Because obviously it's gonna hurt a little bit. I think not having Chase Burns back. Of course, he went to Wake Forest, but still, I think when you look at guys like having Christian Moore, you still have Hunter Inslee. We still have Blake Burke, who just has an incredible bat. Zane Denton's still on the roster. I don't know how the heck is Kirby Cornell. Kirby Cornell's been there forever. He's a graduate player, apparently. I don't know how he's still in college. Drew Beam is probably your lead guy in terms of pitching. It's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
So, in any case, we'll see what they're able to do. Also, shout out to the softball. Softball preseason ranked number 2 heading into the season. Off to a pretty strong start to this season. See here. The Riley West was their player of the week. They were 3-0. They beat UT Arlington 15-0, and then won 2 games in Baylor 3-2 and 9-1. Of course, I said Riley West is your player of the week in the SEC, and they're second to Oklahoma, because Oklahoma has been the gold standard in softball. The question is, can Tennessee, continue to be the dominant program in the SEC, at least for now until Oklahoma shows up? But, with Oklahoma coming and being the powerhouse in softball, can Tennessee catch up to them?
Yeah, that's the big question. And when they came close to winning the softball World Series, there was Oklahoma on the way. So definitely Oklahoma is the team to beat.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, this team, we talked about Riley West is really, really good on this team. Of course, Kiki Malloy, still on the team, graduate player. She's been phenomenal for this program. Carolyn Pickens is a great pitcher, in my opinion. Additionally, shout out to McKenna Gibson, has been really good as well. So definitely, I'm going to try to catch up some of the softball team as well. They're going to be, I think, a very electric team to watch. So NBA, of course, I guess because you want to talk about some of the Tuesday games. I know I wanted to bring up the trade deadline.
Yeah, because I was watching some of the games while we're having the pod, and the game I definitely want to talk is the Rockets and the Knicks game, because there were some mad, especially the Knicks coach. He was furious about referees calling a late foul when we're like 0.5 seconds left. So it was a really, really controversial decision. It was a great game. For the Rockets, I know they're in the rebuilding year, and it's always good to win at home. But those free throws by Aaron Holiday, there were controversial calls that got Knicks coach really fired up, and he wanted to go up against the referees. So
yeah,
and the Knicks,
so I'm seeing a replay now. This call on Jalen Brunson. Wow, that's bad.
Yeah. So and for the Knicks, they're on the battling for the top in the East. So any win counts, especially when you are neck and neck, a half game difference with the Philadelphia 76ers. And, and those spots in the playoffs really count. So that's it. That's why I want to bring up. I know it's probably an average Tuesday game, but, there were that controversy. Another game I want to bring it up. 2 powerhouses, the current champion, the Nuggets, and the previous champion, the Bucks, facing off. The Milwaukee Bucks destroyed the Nuggets. 36 points by Giannis. But it's regular season in the NBA. I know great performance, but at the end of the day, those games they count. But we know that both Denver and Milwaukee are going to be in the playoffs, so that game is not going to decide if they're going to be in. Probably probably they're gonna at least the top four in the West is only decide. The difference is like one game between Minnesota, the Clippers, OKC, and Denver. So that West fight is interesting because in the East, kind of Boston took over.
Yeah, and what's interesting too is since Milwaukee fired Adrian Griffin and brought in Doc Rivers, they're 4-6 in their last 10 games. Interesting how that works. And Cleveland's overtaken that second seed, which also is
Yeah,
very interesting as well. Because remember,
they won
Cleveland had
nine.
an epic choke job.
They won nine straight. So
Yeah,
that's impressive.
yeah. It's good to see Cleveland have a non-LeBron good team. So I'll give them that. And also too, a lot the teams that are on the bubble right now are interesting. Like, and look at the West here: Dallas, Los Angeles, and Golden State, all in the play-in. That's gonna be a wild play-in.
How about Sacramento, a young, interesting team in the bubble as well? So it's going to be one of the best play-ins because all four teams, especially I mentioned Dallas, the Lakers, and the Warriors have superstars, but don't count Sacramento out just yet.
Yeah, and also shout out to the Pelicans as well, being in the top five. And finally, we're getting to see what a healthy Zion Williamson looks like.
Yeah, finally. Yeah, that's what the player everybody was expecting to see a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, he's averaging right now 22, 5, let's say 22, 6, and 5. He has a pretty good stat line. So I'm excited to finally see him maybe get to the playoffs for once. Now, in terms of the trade deadline, I don't feel like there was anything too crazy that occurred. I don't know about you, so
No, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I probably the only big kind of draft kind of trade kind of moves were by the Clippers, but months ago, getting Harden. Outside of that, I don't see anything.
yeah, very milk toast. And that's the thing with the NBA. Like, NBA very much rides off of drama and trades and stuff, and it feels like they've kind of not been good at that recently. But then again, it feels like teams are also getting smart and being like, okay, maybe we shouldn't throw away our whole future on a trade that may or may not work. Let's just build. Let's just be calm, or with the rebuild, kind of like what Denver did, and Denver has been paid off handsomely. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think we're entering a much more team-oriented time. Well, yesterday might have been the Super Bowl, but Sunday is the Super Bowl of racing. The Daytona 500, the NASCAR season is back, boys and girls, for real. The first regular season race here, and it's the biggest one, the Daytona 500. And it's the weirdest thing always. Every time I think about it, that the biggest race in NASCAR is the first one. So it's bigger than, I mean, winning the 500 is bigger than winning a championship, in my personal opinion. It's like an IndyCar. Like, it's bigger to win the Indianapolis 500 than it is to win the Indy Car Championship. Like, winning this race is huge. And in terms of how the race is going to play out, of course, I think the super speedway package in this car has been really good, really entertaining. I do think that some of the wrecks last year were starting to get a little too crazy. I think about the last time we went to Daytona and Ryan Preece was flying through the air. I think I'll be curious to see if maybe they've done some adjustments to the package to maybe make the cars a little safer. I'm curious to see how the drafting works here. I've heard rumors that maybe we go back to a dual car tandem like they did around 2011, but I really hope that's not the case because I like to see big packs, a lot of big energy. And I really want to see good strategy, right? Because I don't want this to come down to a random wreck fest like we've seen in the past couple of years. I want to actually see us get to the start-finish line. In terms of who I think is going to win, it's a huge advantage to be a Ford here because there's just so many more Fords compared to Chevrolets and Toyotas. So if I had to pick a winner, honestly, I'm probably picking like Brad Keselowski. I think those Ford, the RFK Fords, especially the Roush, Fenway, Keselowski racing Fords, have been very strong at these super speedways. I think he could definitely win this one here. Personally, though, who do I want to win? I want Kyle Busch to win. I think Kyle Busch, should will I really want him to win because that's really the one thing he hasn't won. He's won everything else except for the Daytona 500, and really he had led to lap 200 last year. So, um, it's kind of like Dale Earnhardt Jr. at this point. The 500 is the only thing left on his list, and that sometimes is the toughest thing to win. So, it's going to be entertaining. I'm excited for it. And the last thing to mention in American sports, ESPN, Fox, and Turner Sports have come together to announce a new sports streaming service where all programming on each of ESPN, Fox, and Turner Sports will be available in a bundle for like $40 or $50 a month. So my thing is, for that price point, YouTube TV is not that much more expensive. And you still don't have CBS. You still don't have NBC. I don't know if this will accomplish what they're hoping it'll accomplish.
To kind of get the product more interesting, they're going to have to move games exclusively in that service, like Peacock is doing, like NBC is doing with Peacock. So they're trying to create the Netflix of sports, but in movies you will watch, time you can rewatch, you can watch it again, but in sports is all about the live, and the major network still holds the big guns, especially football. So up until that change, I don't see big relevance. It's a bold move, but again, there's gonna be years to come to be big relevant.
Yeah, and Peacock's only $5 a month, and you get a lot of really good content on it. This would have to be very, very relevant. But in any case, that's all the American news that I have. Also, shout out to the Waste Management Open for being the most unhinged golf tournament of the year. Of course, I don't know if you've seen the highlights of it, guys, but people literally showing up to the golf course, throwing beers onto the course, sliding around the golf course. They literally had to shut down alcohol sales because the crowd was getting too unruly. It's called the Waste Management Phoenix Open. One of the craziest scenes in golf you'll ever see. Really, the only scene in golf that's actually you're encouraged to actually act like a sports fan.
I like that. It's a interesting bundle.
Absolutely. But anyway, heading down to Brazil, there's a bit of a surprise, maybe for the second. I don't know if it's that much of a surprise, but it's
Brazil, which is back-to-back champions in soccer in Olympics in 2016 and 2020. I'm not gonna be in Paris. They lost to Argentina 1-0 in the qualifying in Venezuela. Argentina, which was the winner in the 2008 Soccer Olympics, are in. Of course, it was disappointing because you had the Hendrick, you had other Gabriel Peck, other players that were starters in their teams in Brazil, especially Hendrick, the big star who's going to Madrid in the summer, but definitely is disappointing. But at that point, it's not like, for example, in 2004, where Brazil did not make it and never won it, and there were a lot of stars. Like right now, it was embarrassing, but Brazil won back to back. They got this non-winning soccer in Olympics out of the out of sight. They won at home. They won the last one. So as disappointing and embarrassing that is, I think it's not as a big deal as it was before. So definitely but there is now a lot of people bringing the curse of the cat. So in a press conference during the 2022 World Cup, a cat invaded the press conference, and the CBF, the Brazil's Soccer Confederation PR guy, got the cat like that and throw it out. And
what?
You never seen that footage?
No.
I
Wow,
have to.
that sounds terrible.
Yeah. Let me pull up the footage. Let me Let me pull up
I
the
mean,
script.
I get maybe if you're not cappers, I mean, don't throw an animal out of a booth.
Yeah, yeah. Let me.
Speaking of animals, while you're pulling that up, I ran across not sports related. Well, I was out walking yesterday, and I ran across a whole family of deer. And it was like low key was like one of like just the craziest encounters I've ever had with animals. Like just, I mean, they were just staring at me, but they were just going on with their own business. And it was awesome.
Uh, I
Because I
guess
wasn't
that,
expecting to see them in this time of year too, because it's winter.
yeah.
But so it was a pretty cool to see a deer up that close. That so
Oh, oh, deers are always like it's so funny. Like I always see them back in Knoxville. Um, so that's the moment. That's a lot of people believe the curse started for Brazil. Soccer. So you see Vinny Jr. and then a cat came in and look what the guy did it.
okay, that's not as bad as I thought it would be.
Yeah, but there's another angle to show him kind of just doing that, and but a lot of people
Yeah,
believe after that moment Brazil got cursed in their national team because they were eliminated in
I
the World Cup.
I
What?
don't understand like why he felt the need to get rid of that cat. Like
Yeah,
that was
it was.
not bothering anyone.
No, I know. Like that's what a lot of people are questioning it, and it's funny that after that moment, Brazil was eliminated in the World Cup. Um, are doing bad in the qualifying. Now are out of the Olympics. So a lot of people are saying that's we're in the feeling of the curse of the cat. A lot of people are joking it, but superstition aside, definitely it's sad to see Brazil not playing for soccer in the Olympics. But
And
my
also, while you're thinking about it, are you concerned this is going to affect your 26 team at all for the World Cup?
no, it's no because it's an under 23 soccer tournament, so it's a lot of soccer for the Olympics is a lot of is for young players and kind of youth because soccer is the only sport in the Olympics where you don't have the best in their sports there. Probably maybe basketball, but at the same time the Olympics in should be swimming, gymnastics, and running. That's like, of course, there's other sport, but soccer. I even would say soccer should be out of the Olympics. Like soccer has a World Cup, has a whole competition for you. So leave the Olympics for the sports who really need that moment to shine. That's their big stage. Like I mentioned, swimming, running, gymnastics, so many others. I even would have put American football instead of soccer because I get to promote the sport, but I think
Right.
as
I mean, also
even
basketball. I think is in that conversation too of how it's a good promoter for that sport.
yeah, baseball is back in the Olympics. So I think for sports that need this kind of global expansion, especially I think NFL, MLB benefits that promotion. But I would say that in terms of affecting the 2026 World Cup, this result, this elimination, no, there's still a long way to go. I'll be worried. I'm more concerned about Dorival Jr. and the team in the qualifying because they're not doing good right now. They need to get back on track. They're gonna get in, yeah, for sure. There's 7 spots, so they're gonna get in. The question is how they're gonna get in. São Paulo
Yeah,
State Champion.
and I'll say this
Go
too
ahead.
for two. I mean, I would imagine any team that wins that's not France is a major upset in this little because France will throw their full weight out winning on home soil.
Oh, oh yeah, that's true. Definitely did want to win the Olympics like they did when won the World Cup back in 1998, and definitely soccer after losing the World Cup final, they probably want to win the soccer Olympics to at least go back and win, especially in their home soil.
And
Definitely,
additionally, after they choked the 2016 Euros too, to Portugal
Yeah.
without Cristiano Ronaldo.
No, Cristiano Ronaldo played that game.
Well, for 20 minutes, and they got hurt.
Yeah, but still, but yeah, that's fair. But that was an interesting result. Back in Brazilian soccer here,
Yeah,
of
and that's
course,
also a while before you get into Brazilian soccer too. I just realized too. Don't we have Euros this year too?
yeah, there's Euros. There's Euros too. That's
Yeah,
true. That the
and
Euros
that's a
in
bigger tournament than Olympics.
yeah, that's why again soccer should not be in the Olympics. Yeah, soccer has a lot of tournaments that people care more about than the sport itself in the Olympics, where you there is for the sports that don't have as near as the appreciate like the brand of soccer in the
Yeah.
world.
All I'm gonna
And
say is it's coming home. It's coming home.
yeah, I don't know. I, I hope so. I like England, but you know, I
Yeah,
mean,
they had to win it at 21. That was their shot, and they blew it.
they blew it so bad at home. I mean, that was that was sad. Also, Brazil also not. There will be no Brazil in women's basketball. Also sad. They were eliminated in the group stage in the qualifying, which is also sad because women's basketball in Brazil is so relevant, especially that 1996 team with Paulo Hortensia that really gave a hard time to US in Atlanta. That was a team to remember. Paula, Hortensia, they're all in the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame in Knoxville. I saw them person. Hopefully, Brazil can be back on track in women's basketball and be as good as they were in the '90s. But they're not going to
There's
be
got to
in
be a
the.
Caitlin Clark somewhere down there.
Yeah, there's gotta be. There's gotta be. Hopefully, it will come up in the next few years. Back in our here in our home here soccer in Brazil, Paulistão, the state championship that is more relevant in Brazil. Corinthians hire a new coach, Portuguese coach, but not Vitor Pereira, Antonio Oliveira from Cuiabá. He got the win on Sunday. Controversial call, but he still got the win. But they are still 3 points away from relegation zone, which is embarrassing. Like Corinthians should not be fighting for relegation in the state championship. Like you have way more resources and money and players. I mean, I know right now they're out of the relegation zone, but they're and it looks like they're not gonna be in the fight for for the quarterfinals because they're 4 points away from the third and second place. So I don't think they're gonna catch on Corinthians right now. At least they got a new coach, but they're still trying to find themselves. And they're as I said, the year does not look promising for Corinthians fans. The State Bank Caixa kind of turned down the deal to reach out an agreement to finally end the debt the Corinthians has because of their stadium. So a lot of problems on and off the field for Corinthians. Palmeiras tied a game today, but not really matter. They're gonna be in. São Paulo lost on Saturday. Doesn't matter. They're gonna get into the quarterfinals. Santos tied. Doesn't matter. They're gonna get in. I think right now the only big story in the state championship is Corinthians. Are they gonna be able to at least remain in the first division, and they're gonna fight strength to at least try to get, because if Corinthians get in the quarterfinals, then is another shot. Because then Corinthians is one of those teams that if you let them get in, they're gonna give some trouble. So that's probably gonna be the rest of the story for the next 5 weeks for the Brazilian for the state championship in São Paulo. And last but not least, my beloved Rio Branco is in a little bit of a problem. Lost 2 straight, lost to Jabaquara at home on Wednesday, a game that everybody thought the Rio Broncos going to dominate. Nick, the team arrived 30 minutes before the game, literally arrived. They did not do any warm ups. Yes, the team arrived. The game was going to be at 3 p.m. Brazil time. The team arrived 2:30 p.m.
Okay, so I know you're an employee now of Rio Branco. And since we're in
Yeah.
English, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Did you not like an hour, 2 hours before be like, hey guys, where the are you?
No, I was texting the other team's coach because I have his contact on my WhatsApp, and they were like, "We're stuck in traffic because but they were in a kind of like a scheduling hellhole because they had to go to Franca up north, go back to the beach, and then go up again. So they were in some sort of a logistical issue, and I guess they were there were big traffic in the interstate coming from the beach to here Americana, but nevertheless, like it was very was upsetting to lose a team that could even make a warm up. They did not warm up. They got in, changed, went on the field. Only I think that probably only the goalkeepers were able to warm up. But 41
That's
year old
unacceptable.
yeah, 41-year-old Rodriguinho scored twice, a former Rio Branco player. And you can see 2 goals from a 41-year-old player.
I mean, that right there. I mean, I know Vladimir has been very good as a coach, but like, what in the? He needs to get control of his team.
Yes. Volmir, yes, a lot of people question him too. And then on Saturday, the team played better than on Wednesday. Had a really good first half, dominating. Couldn't score. And then in soccer, if you don't score, you get scored. And that's what happened in the last play of the game on the road to now the number one team, the team in the top of the table. Grêmio São Carlense 1-0. Now we're going to have a full week, no midweek games. Rio Branco plays at home against Ska Brazil. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of answers that Rio Branco needs to find because the fans they want to see results. They're not happy right now the way the team has been playing.
Yeah, I mean, I would be raising hell over them not warming up. I cannot believe they just voluntarily didn't warm up.
No, it's not they didn't have time to warm up because imagine you arrive at the stadium at 2:30, you get to the locker room, you need to time to change and stretch and do like a last minute pray. By then, you need to get on the field because of protocol because there's like the national anthem and everything, like any game.
Right?
But
Wait. So it's just the opposition that didn't warm up. Rio Branco
no,
warmed
Rio
up.
Branco warm up. Rio Branco was warming up.
That makes it even worse.
Rio Branco warm up, all good. They were on the field warming up at 1:30 p.m., 1:45. Like Jabaquara arrived at the stadium. Arrive. It's like if you have a basketball game and the team that were gonna play you, like Tennessee was gonna play High Point, and High Point arrived Thompson Boling Arena at 7:30 at an 8 p.m. tip-off game.
Yeah, that's insane.
So, yeah,
and y'all lost.
Yes, yeah, that was hard to swallow.
Yeah, wow.
That was
what was the atmosphere like after the loss? Were there people booing?
Oh, it was something else. Like you had Rio Branco president arguing very heated with the fans. Fans calling him all the names you can think about it, and he was replying with all the language that you can think of. So there was a little bit of a hostile atmosphere, and even Rio Branco front office, as much as they're confident about Saturday's game, like there's some fears that the atmosphere is not gonna be as favorable as it was, like for example against Vossing, which was like 1,300 fans. Like I think it's gonna be almost. I think it's gonna go down like half of it on this Saturday's game.
That's certainly brutal. Well, I hope things turn around. And also in terms of like standings, is there now worries about relegation?
I wouldn't think so because there's so it wouldn't cross my mind because there's so many bad like there's like Rio Branco, I guess, is not the team right now. I think it's gonna get better. But like for example, you have Joseense, Independente, Limera, which are two teams like one team literally has to play in another town and literally has like on and off the field issues. Independente had a partnership with a company that was gonna run the football operation. They just left. So there are other teams with way bigger issues than Rio Branco. So I would think Rio Branco has to find a way to score and get the results that the performers are not showing. Like Rebronco plays good, but you need to score to win the games to prove they are good.
Yeah. And that's what it all comes down to about scoring at the end of the game. It's kind of
Yeah.
interesting how it all goes full circle. Julio Bronco meet the 49ers on this
Yes.
post Super Bowl show. Episode 117. Boys and girls, we've come to the end of the line here for this one here on February 12th, 2024, as we enter the non-football season. But as you can tell, we have plenty coming up: basketball, baseball, soccer, all of it, for this very late Tuesday, a very late Monday, early Tuesday. That's Gustavo Tomazeli in Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil. I'm Nick Hill in Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States. You've been listening to the only American and Brazilian sports podcast. 2 countries, 2 Americas, all sports. You'll have a good one.